Guys, hang on. I hit 45. I'm gonna go check this out real quick. I gotta go take a look at the bell hat. I'll be right back. Okay, just hang on. If you guys finish it before me, don't worry about it. I'll be right back. Oh my God, it looks so good. It's so pretty. Oh, it's so amazing. Man, this may be my future hat forever. I may have to wear this hat in conjunction. I may have to just wear multiple hats because this hat is so beauty. I love it. It's so pretty. Oh man, I can't stop looking at it. It's glorious. It's better than glorious. It's stupendous. It's so pretty. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's everything I wanted. Oh, hey guys, I didn't know you guys were here. Is it time for the podcast? Son of a gun. All right. They're good. They just figured that out. We're set. Let's get into the podcast. Welcome to the Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good weekend. I know I did. This week is the beginning of Season 6. We're going to be diving into the patch notes. I'm going to be talking about sea forts and my experience. We're going to be diving into the cosmetics that we got in. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm really excited to get into it because I think this is probably some of the most fun content that I've had in a while. It's so fun to do this stuff. So we're going to be diving into all of that. I want to try and break down some information about the sea forts. If you haven't been able to jump into one yet, what you can expect, what you should look for, and what you should make sure you don't miss, and what could be coming in the future. So we're going to be diving into a lot of that. So sit back, relax. We've got a lot to talk about this episode. But before we get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons because they are the ones that are helping support me get to SOT Fest this summer. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone over at the UK area during Sea of Thieves Fest. The tickets are sold out as far as I know. I am still working on getting a panel set up so that we can record a live episode there. I'm going to be going with Davram TV from Pirate Talk Radio. He and I are going to be doing a podcast regardless if we have a panel or not. We're just going to be talking about SOT Fest in general. I can't wait to meet any of you that are going. I can't wait to meet anyone that just happens to be in the area. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to be staying in London, but we're going to be traveling up to SOT Fest in general. So I'm going to be there for sure during the weekend and probably a few days after just to make sure that I have an opportunity to see the sights because it's my first time going to England and you guys are helping me do that. So thank you so much. If you want to help join in and support me, or if you just want to get into the Patreon so you can get into the Gold Hoarder episodes at the end of the month, or if you're looking to get your questions in for when I have more of the rare guests coming, I've got some more that I'm trying to schedule out right now. I know they want to do it. It's just a matter of timing. So I want to thank those. You can head over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast and support this content. If you love what I do, it really makes a difference. So thank you to People's Republic, Elcute, Captain Hasco, Chateau Neuf, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fallen, Fergatron, Captain Vane, Trickster, Jabaro 5, Kazi the Rogue, King Flameheart, Lumpy SRQ, Ocarian Darth, Dub Goose, Evil Morpheus, Xbox Mike 29, Munchie, Regis Stella, Savage Hamster, Master, Norwegian, Tarnished Film, who's a new one. Thank you for joining, Tarnished Film. TN Professor, Real Big Tuna, Uriel Keynes, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Super Pack, Music Me, The Lore Chronologist, Deadeye Dre, Murphy Lives, Neon, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Skinny Matt, Straw Hat Connor, Thor Von Blitz, Void, Whimser Chris, and Zam. Wow, thank you all so much. And a special note, Windsor Chris I missed last week, and he reached out to me to let me know that he thought that there was a mistake in the billing, and I wanted to let him know personally on the podcast that was my mistake. So if I ever miss your name and it's on me, let me know. Keep me accountable, because that's something that you want in the show. That's you get to put your name on there. You're supporting the podcast, you're in the credits. I want to make sure that you're credited, so please keep me honest by letting me know if that happens. And thank you to Windsor Chris for letting me know. And Pirates, with that, let's get into the episode. All right, let's get into sea forts. These are going to be the first item on today's docket. We're going to be diving into the patch notes, this whole thing. So if you haven't played this and you want to avoid spoilers, skip this episode till you get a chance to jump in, because I want to talk about them, what you can expect, the kind of loot, how long they're going to take, you know, where they're at, things like that. So I want to make sure that you guys have that information going into the game. So let's talk right off the bat about the patch notes. We got 2.5.0. This brings in its major introduction, which is obviously sea forts. There are now 6 of those that are available across the different seas in the 3 main seas, the ancient isles, the wilds, and of course the shores of plenty. And they're pretty spaced out. They're closer towards the outer side of most of the actual islands, and you're going to find them on the outskirts of the map. So it's nice that you can kind of jump in, and it looks like most of them are actually going to be fairly close to an outpost. I think Golden Sands Outpost is really the only caveat to this, just because of what's been going on over at Golden Sands Outpost. And otherwise, I think if that tavern, or if that outpost ever comes back to being normal, then it will be pretty close to those. An interesting thing that I noticed on the map when I was playing with a friend last night, we were looking at where to go, and I was kind of telling him, you know, head for the sea forts and stuff. Well, unfortunately, everything in the game is either an island or a fort. And with even some of the actual forts, the skeleton forts, being called fortresses, like I think Crow's Nest Fortress is one that is technically a skeleton fort, even though we call it a fortress in the game. So it's kind of hard to let them know, like, hey, go to the sea fort. It's like, okay, well, which ones are the sea forts if you haven't seen anything in the game? There's nothing really discerning about the sea fortresses names outside of just being called a fortress. But I like that these are kind of spread out. I did a test today just to kind of run out and see like how they were as far as time goes, and I'm really impressed. I think this is actually a really fun thing to do. They change based on crew size, so it doesn't matter, you know, how you go in there. If you go in there with 4 people, it's going to take about the same amount of time as it would for a solo person, which I really like. But I managed to get in. I hopped into a server. I spawned at Plunder Outpost, and I sailed over to the fortress that's over by Sharkbait Cove. It took me a few minutes to get over there, and by the time I killed the captain, it had been about 10 minutes to actually do the fort. It then took me about 20 minutes to take all of the treasure, load it all up, and then make my way back to Plunder Outpost and turn it in. It probably would have taken less time if I had not been so concerned about a random rowboat on Plunder Outpost. I thought someone might have been tucking, and I ended up doing a lap around the island, which kind of cut into some of that time. But overall, I would say that these are a great short experience. They take roughly around a half hour, 20 minutes, depending on how fast you are or how lucky you are at finding the keys. And I really like them. Each of these forts are something that has come into the world as a result of the veil between the Sea of Thieves and the Sea of the Damned becoming thinner. And as a result, these mysterious forts, which are kind of created off of the memories of the Spanish soldiers that inhabit them, are now in the world, and you can embark on these. There's Definitely a front and a back to them. If you look at the design of each of the forts, they're roughly a square, but 2/3 or probably about half of the island is one where it doesn't have like a very good kind of approachable dock. Being that these are all made out of cement, it's pretty clear where the front portion of. There is a back portion to the fort which actually has a water gate that leads into I can't think of what they'd actually be called. I know there's probably a good technical term for them, but where you would be able to row a rowboat into one. So all the gates as you get there are actually all raised. You can actually get through them. So you have to kind of go in through the front door. And as you're approaching, you start hearing the music and you start getting the bell tolling, which it sounds amazing. And you start seeing a lot of cannon fire come up. The cannon fire isn't too active, but when you actually get up there, that's when you start to notice that there's going to be a bunch of different phantoms that kind of greet you. Right off the bat, you can hit them with fire bombs or blunder bombs and actually kind of knock them back or set them on fire, which is interesting. Kind of a good way to clear out that first little group so you have an opportunity to get on the island without a whole bunch of pirates just kind of killing you. Each of the phantoms is kind of nice. They only take one flintlock shot, or about 50% of a normal pirate's health, to be able to take those out. And kind of as you're going through there, they'll drop ammo pouches and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily need to worry about taking an eye of reach or a blunderbuss if you don't want to. A sword or a flintlock is actually just perfect for the actual occasion. And I would just recommend jumping in there and having fun. The little touches that they put on this are amazing. With each of the different forts, you're going to have 2 in each of the seas. 2 are overgrown down in the ancient. 2 are kind of the more pristine versions of what you would normally see in their heyday out in the shores of plenty. And then the 2 out in the wilds are actually more like prisons and have cages with a bunch of skeletons tied up. It's really cool to kind of see like how they've designed all this. I think they've done a really great job of keeping the aesthetic of the dark and dreary wilds accustomed to those fortresses, as well as the overgrown nature of like Devil's Ridge or Thieves Haven or Plunder Valley, and attach that to the way you find these fortresses down in the ancients. And it's just the shores of plenty again is just kind of the peak of piracy, what everything looks like in its pristine form. And it's really cool to be at those ones as well too. I really like the sea forts. I think the sea forts are a great way to engage players for a short amount of time and actually reward them pretty decently. So one of the things you want to keep in mind when you're looking for these forts to see if you can actually do them, or if they're active, they're not a world event. So there's no way to really tell like how they're going to be up unless you actually sail towards them. When you see one, you'll see a bunch of green ghostly lights at the actual fort. And there's going to be a little flag that's at the top, a little pennant that's raised. Some of them have 2, but the highest one is going to be the indicator there. When you actually complete the fort, in which case you'll have to wait through different waves. I think there's roughly about 5 or 6 different waves of phantoms, with culminating in a phantom captain. Once you kill the captain, he'll drop a treasure key, which will give you access to the fort treasury, which is down on the bottom level. There's a bottom level that's the sea level, and then there's the standard level, which I would say is kind of like the mess hall, the cook, and kind of the entryway. Then there's a floor above that, which I recall as being the bunks, if I remember, or maybe it's just a planning room or a regular room. And then I think the floor above that is actually the bunks. And then the top floor is actually going to be the roof. And even above the roof, there is a small little section there that has the bell just above the actual storage unit, which there's a storage section on top of the roof that is also locked, which if you run around the island and open up some of the cabinets, some of the nightstands, Even the little turrets have little boxes in there you can open up and look and see. You can find the storeroom key, and the storeroom will have additional pieces of treasure as well too. In fact, most of the little cabinets and stuff will have treasure hidden in them. And keep an eye out in the actual fort treasury as well too, because the shelves in there have loot that's placed fairly naturally. So you can definitely run by like a crate of exquisite spices and not really doesn't really catch your eye compared to the corner of the fort treasury where it has like piles of gold that you can pick up with a chair and like a little cup and a couple ghostly treasures and stuff like that. So definitely keep your eye out for stuff. Take your time after you've cleared out this fort, which really should only take about 10 minutes or so to work your way through the different waves and stuff. Some of the cool things that I noticed about this was that in these forts, they've taken a lot of time to really kind of work on some of the aesthetic. I can't remember which one I was at, but I was in one of them where I was on the bottom floor where the treasury is, and there's actually a jail cell in there where there's a skeleton and there's rituals that are being performed in that prison cell. And if you go up to the prison cell, there's a key to the lock that has not really been found. It's not in the game as far as we know. And bear in mind, like the stuff that we have in the update right now is only part of the update. We were actually supposed to be getting the Pirate Legend Voyages. Those were intended to be launched at the start of season 6. Those have actually been delayed. I think they're coming later in the season, but we're not really sure because we don't have word on that. But that is still intended to be in this update. It's just not something that's currently available for us. So sea forts are kind of the main thing right now. But getting to some of the aesthetics, I just wanted to kind of mention, like, there are pulley systems and that are in the actual sea forts. So if you go into the bottom floor of the sea fort, you have kind of a T-square shape room where there's a hallway that leads to the treasury, which leads to a gate. That gate is actually connected to the outside of the front of the actual outpost, or the fort. Sorry, not the outpost. Whereas the little water well area that's down where you can kind of load in a rowboat, they actually have different pulley systems connected to an offloading pallet, which I can't think of other words to really describe it, but essentially one of those things, kind of like the elevators on Thieves Haven, where you can stack stuff on it and then use a pulley to lower it. Well, you can lower it and you can raise this pallet, but you can also move it in and out away from the actual thing so that it hovers above the water, and then you can lower it down. And then if the gate is raised, what you can do is you can use your ship's harpoon to actually harpoon the treasure off of this pallet, which is a little easier access to get in there and actually do that. Getting to one of the things that I did kind of want to touch on about these forts is there's a very large presence of questionable stuff going on. When the game was earlier in its infant, or earlier in its design, we got the Fort of the Damned, and the way we got the Fort of the Damned was actually through Wanda and Stitcher Jim, or who was the mysterious stranger when we weren't 100% for sure like who it was, and as we're kind of helping them out, delivering these dark relics, which, if you're not aware, the actual season itself, season 6, actually is called the Dark Relics season. It is if you look at the different titles that are available for each of the different things, like the first title that you actually have available to you is called the Castaway of Dark Relics. So, and the flag is actually the flag of Dark Relics is available at 5, and then the sails are available at 10, and the whole season is kind of focused around these dark relics, which I think is going to be kind of closer and closer as we get closer towards that pirate legend information, or as far as those voyages and stuff come. So I think that's kind of what's coming down the line, and we don't actually have any kind of special events right now to really go on, so it's hard to tell, like, is this part of that, or are we going to get something different in the future? But to kind of speak to the Fort of the Damned was something that was created as a result of these dark relics. It was something that actually shifted the old boot fort that was just a regular skeleton fort into this Fort of the Damned, which harbored the spirit of Greymorrow, and is constantly something that you can spawn up using Dark Ritual Skull as well as the Flames of Fate. Similarly, these forts, these sea forts that have come from the Sea of the Damned, from the memories of these phantoms, these Spanish conquistador phantoms. If you wander around in there and you pay attention to some of the stuff that's going on in these sea forts, you'll start to notice scrawlings on these large scrolls that are pinned against the walls, or you'll find the true pirate code right above a table on one of the floors with the actual bunks that has Wanda the Wordsmith's actual pirate code, the same pirate code that she has hanging up on her workbench at Wander's Refuge in her secret little hideout there, as well as just the rituals that are going on down in the prison cell that we don't have a key to, which I don't know that we need a key to because it's a prison cell. You can see exactly what's going on in there, but I imagine there's a reason for all of that. So we just haven't found that. I imagine what's going to happen, honestly, I think what's going to happen is that there is going to be some sort of special thing that happens that forces us to take a dark relic to one of these sea forts to perform some sort of ritual to summon a boss that will cause us to kill them to get the key to be able to open this up to retrieve something like the Veil of Ancients mask or something like that. Like it'll probably be tied in with Bell as well as the Pirate Lord. Sorry, I was blanking on his name. Sir Ramses, to kind of push us further along in the story. Right now we are waiting on the next adventure. According to the in-game UI, it says it's 2 weeks away, which I have to trust because we just don't know like when it's supposed to be popping up. The season ends in 14 weeks, and we haven't really seen anything that we've caught, as far as I've caught, talking about what's going on with the current mystery. One of the things that actually points to this even more clearly is if you actually go into the game and take a look at the Adventures tab next to quests, in the second page, Adventure 2 actually says that the story is titled Forts of the Forgotten. And while we don't know anything about it, it does seem to kind of indicate that with the season being tied around dark relics, with Bell and Ramses being an integral part, and knowing that Pirate Legends are going to be telling us more about what's going on, plus the teaser trailer talking about uncovering more information about the Ancients, it feels like we're going to be using dark relics as a way to uncover a mystery about how these forts came into the Sea of Thieves, and if this is going to be something that needs to get stopped in the future, or how we're going to go about it. Overall, as far as forts go, with the sea forts, I think these are a great addition. I've had a ton of fun jumping in either solo or with other people to clear them out. One of the fun things that I kind of learned about these is I was trying to take note about how good these were as far as gold, or what the value of them were, if they're going to be something that people are going to stick with. I just want to point out that a storage crate is roughly about 17 grand in the game in gold. And with the sea forts, if you complete them, you roughly get about 4 to 5 pieces from each of the 3 main trade companies, whether it be Order of Souls, Merchant, Alliance, or Gold Hoarders. You get about 4 to 5 pieces of treasure each if you find everything, including the storeroom. And that's not necessarily including the kegs, because I don't want to include those. They aren't worth that much. So I try to exclude those from the value. But with all of the treasure that you can get from a sea fort, you can get about 15 to 17,000 worth in gold back, which is roughly about what it costs to pick up a storage crate. And the reason I bring up the storage crate is because if you've been to some of these forts and you've actually, pulled in the cranes that have the 3 barrels, each of those barrels generally has some really good pieces of meat or fish that you can get. It's actually really good selection of food. And if you wander around to the different barrels, you can actually find that many of the barrels have somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 planks to 150 cannonballs and a whole bunch of fruit. So if you're starting out, what I would recommend is don't even bother with the outpost. Grab a storage crate, head over to a nearby fort, grab a bunch of treasure, clear out the fort, get all of the supplies, and then head to the next fort to do the same thing over. And by the time you're done, if you're able to, you should have a fairly hefty amount of supplies to be able to take on any adventure. Plus, you would have already been out there getting treasure, so the investment cost for the storage crate should be taken care of. Plus, you're working on your renown, and you have something to add towards your emissary ledgers without having to lose time stocking up as you normally would at an outpost. Most of the outposts I've come into nowadays are already pretty wiped out from whoever was at there most recently, either when they logged out or when they got there before I did and they just haven't had a reset. So it's actually more beneficial to you to head over to a sea fort with just a storage crate, recoup the costs based on the treasure that you get from there, get all of the supplies, and then the treasure is going to count towards your emissary value anyway, which we just got a whole bunch of new emissary ledgers that are going to kick up. Now, it's already the 13th of the month, and you may be wondering, how the heck am I supposed to get my rewards for my emissary by the end of the month if we're already 2 weeks in? Well, it's not kicking off yet. In fact, if you head into the emissaries to take a look at the different rewards, those are not going to actually roll over until the beginning of April. In fact, it always starts at the beginning of each month, regardless of when the new emissary rewards are added to the game, in which case it was with season 6. So if you head in there, you'll be able to take a look. It looks like Reapers are up to weapons, as well as the Gold Hoarders, Order of Souls, and Merchant Alliance. So you should be able to get the weapons for those. And then with, of course, the Athena's Fortune. Athena's Fortune should still be working on the rest of the set of the Magpie's Glory sales, or ship's liveries. So the white and gold versions of the Athena Fortune sales. So instead of it being black and green, it's going to be gold and white. You should be very familiar, and you should already have the weapons for this. Again, just a reminder that the ledgers for the current season that we already are past but are still available, those are ending in 18 days as of the recording. So you have roughly about 2 weeks to go to try and get the last bits of those ledgers done so that you can get caught up for when the next round of rewards are available at the beginning of April. I wanted to touch on sea forts for the commendations. There's some commendations and some achievements. The achievements I'll knock out real quick. There's 3 of them. They're worth about 65 gamer score. You're going to be able to do these fairly easily, so I wouldn't worry about them too much. With the Bilge Rat's reputation, the commendations are coming out. These ones are going to be a little bit tougher. Let me see if actually, before I jump into this, I want to see if I can pull up the actual achievements for these. Let's see. The first one is what's yours is mine. That's opening a sea fort treasury. Should be very easy. In fact, already 1% of the population have already achieved this, and it's only been out for less than a week. So really glad to see that. I'm trying to see, do I have the other ones? I think I don't have the other ones unlocked yet, and I think that comes with time. Let me take a quick look and see. Let's see. So there's what's yours is mine, Master Burglar, and From Whence They Came. So no, I have not completed those, and that's just because some of these actually are a little bit tougher to do unless you've actually been grinding these out for quite a while. So From Whence They Came, that's actually a commendation. Once you complete that commendation to all grade 5, then you should be able to get that gamer score. I'm in grade 4 right now. I have 172 out of 175 done. So If it multiplies the way it normally does, then grade 5 should be killing 250 Sea Fort Phantoms. The other one, which is the Master Burglar, is in grade 2. I've got 14 out of 15 for that, so I imagine that's probably going to be grade 5 is going to be 50, and that's where you just go in and discover 15 secret stashed treasures on a sea fort. So if you open up like the cabinets and the nightstands and the cupboards, things like that, just pulling treasure from there or gold pouches from there are going to be the way to actually get through that commendation, as well as earn that achievement. Some of the commendations that are not tied to achievements, though, are things like Light Fingered. You discovered a secret stash treasure on a sea fort, which is just what I talked about a little bit before. And then you've got the Faster Cook, which if you go into the actual sea fort, there's the main floor has a map table, which is just a huge wall map, which is amazing. You can actually utilize it. Although Reapers do not appear on that, so don't look at that map and think that you're fine, because it won't show any Reaper flags or Reaper emissaries on there. You want to make sure that you go out and actually take a look at the map on your ship table to keep an eye out for any kind of Reapers. A few of the other ones that I actually really like is to do with that main floor. When you go in there, there's a nice fireplace, there's a table, there's a mess hall, there's a couple cupboards, but the kitchen area actually has a large stove, and the large stove actually fits 4 frying pans, so you can actually cook 4 pieces of food on the actual frying pans at the same time, which if you've got a bunch of Kraken or Megalodon that you've been sitting on and you don't want to have to wait either by next to an island where there's only like your ship and then the actual frying pan or cooking spot on there. In fact, I think Mermaid's Hideaway is probably the best one that I can think of off the top of my head, because there's one over by what is it, 5 Paces Frank, I think, and then there's one right on the west side of the island on the beach. And then there's, of course, the one that's next to your ship or on your ship. So you could feasibly have 3 pieces cooking there. But the sea forts are going to be the best because they've honestly got 4 plus your ship. So that's 5 total that you could use to cook up an entire thing of Megalodon, which is amazing. But there's a commendation attached to that, as well as doubloons. And also if you find a sea fort stashed, that's going to be another bit of doubloons that you'll be able to get from there. The next one is called Fort, like fort as in a pun, and then Y winks, 40 winks. And that's one where in the actual, let's see, probably the 4th floor, you've got the bunk, or where all the bunk beds are and stuff. And there's bunk beds in there that you can actually share with other people. So you can sit in the top bunk or the bottom bunk, and you can share that. And when 2 people share a bunk bed, you'll actually get another achievement, as well as some more doubloons. The next one is going to be Get Off My Lawn, which I love. It's the clan name that I'm in for Destiny, and that is hitting another cruise ship with a sea fort cannon, and it's only 1, and once you hit it, you're good. So if you're sitting at a fort and someone's coming up towards you, you can use the cannons that are actually on the fort. I love that. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great way to kind of add value to these sea forts, because with arena closing, no longer are there places for people to be able to do TDM. But now with a sea fort, that functionality is built in. So there's an opportunity now for players to sail up to a sea fort and try and take it from someone else, try and get the treasure that's in there. But the sea fort actually has defenses, and you can actually defend against it. In fact, I was trying to do a Fort of Fortune, or what was it? Where was this? Hidden Springs Keep. And there's a sea fort that's just north of that. And we ended up working with working to get the sea fort to get supplies, because we were low on supplies. We ended up leaving the actual Hidden Springs Keep, and we ended up sailing up to that fort, and Big Bad Pad ended up taking the storage crate that I failed to fill and running around filling it, and then hopped off the sea fort without having completing it, but managed to get a whole bunch of really good supplies for us. And we ended up being able to take out a couple other crews as a result of that, and getting all of the Fort of Fortune treasure. So it was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool to see like just what you could do with that. But one of the things that I was doing was when we were actually on that fort, we were circling around against a brig who actually had Captain Bluehawk, who was in the Discord and showed up on our Twitch stream, congratulating us on the win, and it was GG's to their crew as well. They fought hard, but it was funny because I was trying to use the actual sea fort cannons to try and get some shots in on the brigantine, because I wanted to get this get off my lawn commendation knocked out. It's only 10 balloons, but I have a feeling we're going to be seeing that be a lot more valuable in the future. The only other one that I can really say is really something you should go do, which is definitely a good one, is 30 doubloons, and that's just to go visit all of the different sea forts out in the Sea of Thieves. So there's 6 of them. You just have to sail in a big circle to head to all the different ones. Once you do one, you'll be able to kill the sea fort captain. That'll get you one more of the commendations knocked out for some doubloons, and then you have to open a treasury, which I believe the treasuries are per person. I don't believe those are per crew. I'd have to ask a couple folks around in that, but you get commendations for opening different sea fort treasuries. Like right now I'm at grade 2. I've opened 8 of 10. So I think that's probably going to go up to 50 as well too, but there aren't any doubloons tied to that one. You may be wondering why I'm bringing up doubloons, as if that's something that people care about. Well, it's going to be. So one of the things that came as a result of the patch notes was actually Outpost Cosmetics. We found out that there's a Sandy Corsair Sea Dog set that was added to the Outpost clothing shops that are now in stock. Those are now available for gold. Again, thank you, Rare, for putting the clothing back in the clothing shops instead of with Lorena or previously Duke, so that we can actually purchase those. It's nice to have a reason to go visit the actual Outpost vendors. And then the past season gameplay emotes. Lorena is now offering 2 previously season locked emotes for purchase with doubloons. Players willing to part with a large number of doubloons can purchase the barrel disguise and rolling dice emotes. Now, the barrel disguise was one that I believe was in year 1, or not year 1, season 1 of the plunder pass, or not the plunder pass, the standard season pass. Back in season 1, it was something that everyone got for the first level of the actual season pass. All you had to do was hit level 1 and you got it. It's something that a lot of players that like to hide and use the barrel hide emote were, coveting that. And there were a lot of players that came post season 1 as a result of A Pirate's Life that found out about this emote and have been wondering when they can actually get that. If you've earned this, then you won't have to worry about this, but it does look like they are going to be using a lot of the old gameplay emotes and items from past season passes where it wasn't through the plunder pass, that these are now going to be offered through doubloons. I don't know if it's going to extend to time limited cosmetics that they are going to be adding through the season pass. I know that we have some that came with season 6, but I imagine that some of the stuff that people have missed that aren't technically time limited are things that they're probably going to look to bring to the game through Lorena for the cost of doubloons, which I agree with. I think this is a great way to start adding some value to doubloons. I do think that there's eventually going to be some big doubloon dumps, as a lot of people still have a lot of doubloons that they aren't using right now. And while I may only be sitting on 14K, I do think that they are going to be adding something to the game very similar to the way that we got some Dark Adventurer clothing sets, that they will probably look to do something akin to that, but something that actually kind of goes along with the gold sync that was the Dark Adventurer sets. So with season 6, we're getting a refresh on trials. This is something that many of us were checking out when they first came out and really don't look at, because originally they started to get pretty recycled. You kind of knew what you had to do for each of them. Now they're bringing these back and they're going to be a little bit different, but still fairly familiar for most folks. The thing that I wanted to draw attention to was the fact that these are going to have weekly, monthly, and then seasonal goals. The seasonal goals seem like they're pretty high numbers, but if you start working on these month by month, it should not be too hard to actually do if you're working on the different ones specifically. The reason why I bring these up out of the patch notes is because as people are working through seasonal around, I've noticed that many people don't necessarily have as much time to be able to sail as others. And I wanted to make sure that you had some of the things that you could do that would help out with this. Starting off with weekly trials. Weekly trials already is going to be a pretty easy one to do. They reset every Thursday and they're pretty easy to move through. So this one, for example, the first deed that you can complete, bury a valuable item. That's it. Just head over to an island or somewhere and bury something. The next one is actually going to be digging up valuable items buried by another crew. And this one's a little bit easier because you're not going to be doing something that has to be done by another crew. The pre-made maps that you can find on any of the quest boards at Outposts or Sea Posts will offer those pre-generated ones that if you grab those and dig up 10 items off of there, you're going to be able to earn this deed fairly easily as well. And then the last one takes a little more effort because instead of turning something in, you have to be burying something for someone else. And this one just requires you to sell, it doesn't require you to bury, it requires you to sell 10 chests or skulls to whoever accepts them, whether it be Reaper's Bones, Order of Souls, or Gold Hoarders. You can turn them in anywhere. You just have to turn in 10 of those items, whether it be a mixture of both or all chests or all skulls. And that's it. That's it for the week. When you do that, you get all of those 3 deeds done. It's a quite nice bit of renown, if I have to say so. It's easy to get pretty far into the season pass just working on some of this stuff alone. Not to mention, like when you go to an island, you're probably going to be dealing with skeletons or phantoms or ocean crawlers. So you're going to be doing a little bit of combat as well too. And that's always going to help kind of get your renown level up, as well as just the fact that you're going to be sailing around anyway. So you might as well throw down a voyage, get the miles, and then work towards knocking out some of these buried treasure items, burying stuff and then digging stuff up from other people and then turning that stuff in. Super easy way to get good renown and make sure that you're staying on top of your seasonal pass. Most people who are playing a lot, this isn't going to be an issue, probably not for you, but I figured I'd mention it anyway. If you want to try and get some of those cosmetics early, especially with things like level 45 with Belle's Hat, or level 100 with the Stranger's Sword, or the scars that come at the level 100 as well. So make sure you're getting your value out of that. Make sure you're getting all of the items. There was an interesting conversation that I had with Davram about this, where we were working on these kind of things for our streams. And one of the things that we were kind of talking about was the odd balance that has the season pass right now. Like the season pass for Sea of Thieves is unlike any other season pass that I've been a part of. Most season passes have all the really good stuff in the paid version, and all of the really good stuff this season seems to be coming in the form of the free version. Now, I don't know if this is something they're doing for the sake of engagement. Obviously, they want players to be coming back to play the game, but I'm really genuinely kind of surprised that the stuff that I am really looking forward to is actually the stuff that is going to be in the free pass. Sea of Thieves has never asked for you to pay for any of those expansions, any of these content updates. They only ask that you consider buying stuff from the actual Plunder Pass, but or the Pirate Emporium. And the Pirate Emporium actually has some really good content coming in as well too. But to kind of stick with the season pass conversation, I want to jump on and kind of talk about some of the stuff that we're going to be getting with this Dark Relics season pass, and just how season 6 looks like it's going to be shaping up in general. Right off the bat, one of the first things that I like is that they are pairing up things in the season pass. So level 43, you get 2 different haircuts, one for males and one for females. They also offer the different types of outfits that are going around. So right now there's 2 kinds of naval commander and naval sailor, I believe is the other one, that you can get from this. Or actually, no, it looks like it's just the commander stuff. Is that right? Yeah, the naval commander cosmetic set is the piecemeal clothing set that you can get from the season pass. It's broken up along the actual levels. I really like this. I think it's beautiful. I think they did a really good job of capturing kind of the Spanish naval fleet during the time of piracy. and giving it a really good look in Sea of Thieves. I think a lot of us have wanted kind of these Imperial or kind of these company style clothing. You know, we've or at least for me especially, you know, things like the different East India Trading Company kind of look, as far as like a lot of the officers or the Spanish Inquisition, I think was a joke that a lot of people have been making because of this outfit. You know, no one really expects it, but it's true. Like, it looks great. It really fits with the style. As soon as I saw, I think the Naval Commander set in full, immediately made me think of the Disney movie Pocahontas with I think it's Rorschach, which I think is an ironic name. I don't think it's actually Rorschach. I think I'm misremembering the name of the villain in that. But with Pocahontas, you had the one guy who he looked like he was, you know, right out of the upper echelon of society. You know, he was trying to be kind of that forward facing officer, and it's just really funny to me because he always wore like the metal breastplate, and it was black, if I remember, and he had the little cloak that went over his shoulder and stuff, and he had a little pug dog. It was really hilarious. I'm trying to remember what his name was. It wasn't Rorschach, it was Ratcliffe. Governor Ratcliffe was the name. And that was it was such a fun movie. But for some reason, every time I look at the Naval Commander costume that we have, it totally reminds me of Ratcliffe and just like how he was. So every time I see anyone with it, and it just makes me want to start singing like dig, 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 you know, and I can't get over it. But anyway, it's a really great set. I really think Rare is just knocking it out of the park as far as their clothing cosmetics now. Whoever they've got designing it and modeling it and getting it so that it works on all the pirates, you guys are doing a fabulous job. I really think it's really cool. I will still say that I still constantly hear people saying that they want the Davy Jones costume in the Pirate Emporium to have the squid tentacles. I don't know how hard that is or why that's not a thing, but a lot of people still really want that and still they aren't letting it go. So if that gets fixed, I'm sure a lot of people would be very happy about that costume. The one thing that I did want to draw attention to with the season pass, as far as what you're going to be getting with the actual paid version, is the new Spring Blossom ship collection. This is it comes alongside the Forest Blessings costume, which it's really interesting. Actually, I'm really kind of surprised that they went this route, because it looks very much like what I would expect from the Spring Blossom or the Japanese Blossom festivals that happen usually in March, and it looks great. I think it's really beautiful. I haven't really heard anyone talking about these being the thing that they are excited about, which kind of concerns me, because it's the paid version, and that is the version that I think people should be wanting. You know, Rare as a company making money off of this so that they can support the employees to continue making the game that we love, should be the version that we're excited for. But unfortunately, I haven't really heard anyone talking about this. Now, the interesting thing is that the Forest Blessing costume comes in 3 different styles. The first style being a very natural look to it. You look just like a pirate wearing a very specific costume. Whereas the next one up kind of has some bark growing on you, as if it's a kind of a curse that's affixed to you while you're wearing this outfit. And then the last one is it's full bore. You've got a full kind of forest mask. It kind of reminds me of some of the different creatures that you would see in, like, I'm trying to think of the movie that's Princess Mononoke Hime. The little forest spirits, which is blanking on me now. I can't remember what they're called. But the little guys there, it looks like you're kind of a creature from the forest, which is really kind of cool. You know, your flesh is turned to bark, and it looks like roots kind of weaving in each other. They've done a really good job with that as well, but no one seems to be really talking about it. And other than the Spring Blossom figurehead and the capstan, I haven't really heard too many people talking about the ship cosmetics either, which is interesting, because I actually really love what they've done with this cosmetic. Oh my gosh. Okay. So little inside baseball here. I like to talk about the content that I'm going to be sharing with you while I'm actually looking at it in game. And typically I do this stuff in Maiden Voyage. Typically, like during Maiden Voyage is when I'm kind of sitting around staring at, things. I'm not disturbed. I'm not getting bothered by anyone. But this time I decided I wanted to sail around and get some miles on Merchant Alliance, just on a regular voyage. I kid you not, I'm sailing by Sharkbait Cove right now. Someone is doing Tall Tale 5 of Davy Jones. Like the tower's out there. It's a sloop. They're running around. Davy Jones is got his ship out there. He's on the last thing. I don't want to mess with him at all, but it's just really kind of cool to see him out there like working on it. Like you can't tell because obviously Davy Jones's head isn't showing for everyone because of this Tall Tale, but it's so cool to just kind of be on the outside of someone working on Tall Tale 5 right now from a pirate's life and enjoying it and just seeing the battle from afar. It's so interesting. There's a ton of ghost loot out there, man. I could go over there and scoop up a couple crates and be set, but I'm not trying to do anything right now. I just want to kind of record for you, but it looks like he's doing all right. It looks like Davy Jones has got the why am I blanking on his ship? I can't blink on everything tonight. Jeez, I got to remember some names. Anyway, the ghost fleets are going around. He's doing okay. Looks like he's on that last wave. It's no crackling thunder or anything like that, but he's getting some good shots in. I don't know why I feel like I need to shot call this right now. I should just keep sailing on to what I was working on. What was I talking about? We were talking about the Spring Blossom cosmetics. I like them. I think the capstan, which if you haven't gotten a chance to take a look at it, it's literally like a little bonsai tree in the middle of on a storm, or not a storm. I'm thinking of the tall tale on a stone, in with like a little circle pond around the stone, and there's little fish in the pond. It's cool. It's such a cool, like someone put a ton of work into making that capstan work. Like seriously, think about it. It's a capstan that has water in it, that has fish that are swimming around in it, and a little tree, and all the little leaves kind of move like in the wind and stuff. And it's just like this, that's just a capstan that they put out there. And it's part of the plunder pass, which I honestly, like I had the coins from the last season when I completed season 5. I held on to all my ancient coins that I earned from that. And I just saved them until season 6, which was really hard to do because I wanted to spend them. But I ended up saving them, and I was able to buy the season plunder pass just based off of the ancient coins that I had earned from last season. A couple quick little side notes too I want to talk about before I forget. There's actually a bundle that is out right now that's available for purchase. It is something that you can buy if you want to. You don't have to, but there's the Boisterous Brigades bundle that's available only on the store for Xbox, Microsoft, and Steam. And it gives you the Isle Hopper Outlaw costume, which I haven't talked about, but the weapon bundle as well as the banjo. It gives you 550 ancient coins and 25,000 gold if you buy that. And it's typically about $16, at least in the United States. So I just wanted to kind of mention that because with the plunder pass, I'm going to be getting a lot of stuff, and I'm going to be getting that ancient coin back. But the reason why I brought up the ancient coin in the bundle was because recently I found out that the sea forts are actually a really useful tool if you're going to be visiting them a lot, because believe it or not, ancient skeletons can actually spawn on these. I did not realize this. I went on to a fortress north of Galleon's Grave. And I was out there, I was working on it, and then I was just kind of checking things out, and I was getting ready to shove off when all of a sudden I heard the ancient Skelly music pop, and instantly I was filled with dread because I immediately realized I am on a fortress. There are like 5 levels to this fortress. I have no clue which level this fortress or this ancient Skelly is going to be spawning on, and I freaked out. And then I turned around and he was right in front of me, and I was like, oh well, never mind, he's right here. We're good to go. I'll just go ahead and deal with him then. And I managed to get some ancient coins, and then I kid you not, a couple days later I'm on another sea fort with some other folks, and an ancient Skelly spawns while we're working on the sea post, or on the sea fortress. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. These are great. That's 2 ancient skellies in a week's time to be able to jump on and get some actual skeleton loot and stuff. And I was just like, this is awesome. I'm so for this. Sorry, I'm pulling up to Old Brimstone Fortress because it's the last one that I need to get the all 6. And unfortunately, I hear the music, but it's in the fog, so I can't see it. Oh, it looks so cool. You guys, oh man, these sea forts are so cool looking. I really love these things. But I'm sailing up to it now so I can actually work on it and stuff, because it's literally the last one that I have for this. I just want to be able to knock this out. But the season pass has some really good cosmetics. And as much as I love these cosmetics, one of the biggest problems that I have right now is that content is not locked behind the plunder pass. So I'm very curious to understand from Rare's perspective, if these are making enough money for them. Is the plunder pass successful enough? Because I know a lot of people tend to buy them and they usually get them and then that's it. But there's a bunch of people who may be looking at the Naval Commander set or the Dark Relics makeup or the Stranger's Sword for the level 100 and think, you know what? I like the spring forest stuff. It's cool. I'm a fan of Japan. I love the cherry blossom season. It's always been a big thing for me, but I'm just not feeling that cosmetic set. So I don't really have a drive. I'm not going to use the costume for the spirit forest. I'm not going to get the spring blossom set, and I'm just not too invested in that. And instead, I think I'm more invested in the actual blunder or the Isle Hopper set that is available through the plunder pass right now. And that was kind of my fear with this is that people would see this and they wouldn't feel inspired to buy the plunder pass. Now, why is that my problem? Well, to be perfectly frank, it's not my problem. I'm not the one that has to market the game. I am marketing the game, by just talking about it in general. But for the most part, I just want the game to succeed. And the best way to do that is if people buy stuff for it. So I'm hoping that things are going well. I'm assuming they will. Concurrency and stuff for the game or the number of players that play always seems to be going up. So I feel like the game is still in a really good state. And with the sea forts, I think this is a great way for us to actually be able to play Sea of Thieves in a short session, to be able to do stuff in the world and be able to earn something fairly quickly and to be able to get through it. I really do think that a lot of folks are going to have fun with these sea forts. And I think the season pass has a ton of really well themed cosmetics. I'm very interested in the Pirate Legend content that will eventually be coming. And I'm very curious to see like how these are going to work with the actual sea forts, given that the next adventure seems to be tied to these in the long run. So I feel like I want to take a quick break. Actually, I want to complete this fort because I'm in the fog right now and I want to get some photos and I don't want to be disturbed. So I'm going to take a quick break, play around with this, and then we'll come back and you guys won't even know. Ahoy there, pirates. This is the ad for this episode, and I did want to let you know if you wanted to avoid these and just get a regular filler, you can head over to the Patreon. There's a special feed just for patrons that get the ad-free version. If you want to keep listening, though, I can't say I blame you, because this week I want to let you know about Loot Crate and getting 15% off of most crates and crate subscriptions when you use the link and code RobotsRadio in the show notes. Also, you can head over to audiobooks.com, get your first 3 audiobooks for free, and that can include any 2 VIP books, or use the affiliate link for Green Man Gaming. If you're a PC gamer or you'd like to save money on games, it's one of the benefits of being a PC gamer. Head over to Green Man Gaming. You can get codes for Steam, Epic, any of the different stores that they have deals going on. They have deals going on all the time, and if you plan on buying there, please consider using our affiliate link. All of that goes straight to me through the network. Thank you all so much for everything that you do to support this podcast. It means the world to me, and I continue to try and improve the quality and the content for you. With that, pirates, let's get back to the show. Next up on today's docket, as we're going through the patch notes, let's talk about the Pirate Emporium. We got some new cosmetics that came in. The main one is going to be the Isle Hopper Outlaw. This is a ship set as well as a costume, weapons, banjo, And they added a couple more things in there, but the actual costume comes with what is it? The emote, the specific costume emote that allows you to just start bashing your your guitar or your banjo into the ground, which I love. This is very much a love letter to what I think is Mad Max. Now, a lot of people are going to say, whatever they associate with it. To me, it reflects a lot of Mad Max with its vibe, but also parts Waterworld too. I think some of the outfits and stuff remind me a lot of the Greasers, I think is what they were called in Waterworld, and I love that because it's a little bit dirty, it's a little bit raggedy, but it's definitely got a theme, and the theme is, well, to be blunt, it's spikes. Lots and lots of spikes, as would make sense with aisle hoppers. You've got yourself a very wide brimmed hat with a bunch of fins on it and some piercings along the brim. You've got a full face mask that has a glowing neon pink skull with bright white eyes. And you've got shoulder pads, epaulets that have spikes on them as well too. The cosmetic set for the actual ship has, I think, probably one of the coolest figureheads next to Spinal. I think Spinal still wins this one out, but I think that this one is definitely up there as far as like one of the coolest things I've seen. This is definitely a set that I think I'm going to be picking up eventually because the collector's figurehead for this is absolutely beautiful. If you're not a fan of things that glow, you're probably not going to be into this, but as someone who really enjoys the kind of cyberpunk with kind of like Mad Max, that dystopian future look, but wrapped up in a piratey aesthetic, like I'm all for that, man. That's straight up my bag, and I'm here to get anything I can of that because I love it. Even though I really do love kind of the natural aesthetic of pirates, I really love the naval captain one because it feels like it's something from our world. It feels very natural, and I can kind of role play with that. I think it's really cool. A side note, I just got attacked by a kraken, and in a sloop solo, it's pretty easy. You kill 2 tentacles. It's not really a big deal. The treasure that I got from this, kind of surprising. Didn't think I'd get this. I got a sapphire mermaid gem, a villainous skull, a devil's remnant in a collector's box with 100 gold, 2 pieces of kraken, and a crate of ancient bone dust. It seems kind of weird that I could get a crate of ancient bone dust for killing 2 kraken tentacles, but there you have it. So nice to see Karen out there. I still really like that. I think I might attribute Karen as one of the easier world events to do nowadays. We've got things ranging anywhere from a megalodon and the kraken all the way up to the Fort of Damned and the Fort of Fortune, and with like having those as things that can emerge in the world. I actually kind of like that. I like that we have this kind of breadth of difficulty when it comes to different things. And I know a few people have said that the kraken needs to get refreshed, the kraken needs to be more dangerous, and while I agree that's the case, maybe for a sloop, instead of 2 tentacles it's 4 tentacles, but the amount of damage it takes is still similar to for each tentacle, so 3 or 4 shots per tentacle. But if anything, just to kind of make that kind of last a little bit longer so people can experience it, really kind of give you that feel that you have when you're going through the maiden voyage and you're sailing by and a skeleton ship emerges, which I haven't seen any skeleton ships emerge recently, but I think that's a known issue right now. And you see it dragged down into the depths by the kraken. It's a very intimidating thing, but in practice, when you actually get in there and you start playing around with the kraken isn't nearly as dangerous as it used to be back when it took a lot more time, back before it was actually able to slap the ship. It was just kind of sucking people up and then wrapping. Those were some of the original attacks that it had, and we've evolved the kraken since then. But I do think that the kraken encounter, especially on a sloop, could last a little bit longer. I still think for a brigantine and for a galleon, it's still a little rough, especially if you're not paying attention or people are not on the ship. That can be very detrimental. You have to like cancel what you're doing, get back to where you were. It's very different. But I'm getting sidetracked here because that was just a weird little offshoot story. Talking about the Isle Hopper costumes, I think this is one that I'm probably going to pick up for sure. I want to get it at some point. Not being a Sea of Thieves partner is always the bane of this, because it's one of those sad things where it's like I don't get free access to any of this stuff to be able to showcase it. But at the same time, I'm not, outside of me sailing from time to time with other people, I'm not exactly showcasing it outside of the 1 or 2 streams that I do a week for people. So I totally understand their desire for them to keep those as something that are just for, oh, I burned my Kraken, she's not going to take it, for them to not want to actually like give it to me. So I totally understand that. That's not a big thing. Maybe one day if I make it like a full-time job as a streamer, I'll be able to apply for the Twitch partner stuff. But outside of that, I'm trying to take a look at some of the changes that we got. There's been some interesting things going on, but let me take a break, segment this so that you guys have a break in this, and we'll jump into some other gameplay things that should be known as you're getting into the season. All right, well, I'm going to see if I can shotgun some of these updates so that way you guys can kind of keep this in the forefront of your mind as we're moving through this. There was a change to quick cycle through maps. So now instead of having, you have like the pages in a tall tale book, you can kind of flip through them with the left, right on the D-pad or the AD keys on your keyboard. You can now do the same thing with mysterious notes or quest maps on your quest radial. So if you're holding a map and you know that it's the next one, or you selected the wrong one, or you just want to flip through them because one of them is actually the one that you're going to get, you can actually do that now using the actual flipped through the pages, cycle through the pages, which is really awesome. I'm glad that they made that change in there as well too. The other thing that they added, which I think is really kind of cool, is they gave you a Scuttle Reminder. So now if you're being killed too often, if you've been killed 3 times in quick succession, whether it be from other crews or from skeletons, you're now going to get a prompt for you to remind you how to actually scuttle your ship, which is kind of nice for players that are stuck in a bad loop. They don't know how to get out of it, and they didn't read the thing on their way through the ferryman to kind of see like what's going on. There's a subtle reminder that pops up, very similar to the tutorials in the game where they tell you how to fish or how to dig up treasure. Same kind of scenario when you're going through the maiden voyage, and I appreciate that, because there's a lot of players that don't know what to do in this instance. They don't know how to deal with that situation, and having a reminder is just kind of nice. It's just a little nudge, like, hey, you don't necessarily need this, but if you do, this is how you do it, just so that you don't forget in case you get into a bad situation, which I think a lot of us do from time to time, especially when we're fighting for our treasure. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is actually kind of a big balance change to PvE threats. They've changed the duration for for goths, for metalheads, and for veggies or vegans. So for those types of skeletons, whether it be the gold, the shadow, or the no, I'm sorry, not the vegans. I'm thinking the sirens, because I was thinking that they changed it for all the skeletons, but it wasn't just the skeletons. It was the shadow skeletons. When they're now exposed to light, they're vulnerable for much longer. It's actually really surprising how long they are. And same thing with gold skeletons too. When you get water on them, or when they go through wet, they will actually rust for longer now, which is kind of nice. The other change that they made was to the sirens. So the siren leaders and siren grunts below the waves should now use ranged attacks more frequently than their melee scratch attacks, which is nice, because the melee scratch attack is something that they can actually close the distance on you fairly quickly. Like they can outswim you if you're swimming away from them, and you're actually like sprinting swimming. You're not just kind of like moving forward under the water. So the fact that they're using ranged is nice. It'll help you kind of orient yourself better in the water. You won't necessarily have to feel like you're constantly dealing with something that's like behind you that you can't find, because that's always frustrating. Good changes. The skeleton ship battle locations have changed, and I think this might have affected some of the frequency or issues going on with the different world events, which is ironic because I haven't seen any skeleton ships appear in a while, so I think they're turned off right now. But with the arrival of sea forts in each region, skeleton ship world events have now been consolidated, and these world event battles will now only appear in a single location near the center of the world. world, which I think if you have ever been near the Sea Dogs Tavern, RIP, you'll know that there's a one spot over there that is kind of the main fleet. If you've ever been heading over to Reaper's Hideout and you sail through the fleet and you get 2 skeleton ships emerge on you and you're like, oh my god, I wasn't paying attention to the world events. Those are now going to be consolidated to, I believe, that spot. Now bear in mind, I haven't seen this to confirm it, so it may be in a different location. Don't take this as set in stone on stone tablets or anything. Like, this is very, very flexible, so it may change. They may decide to go against it, but for right now it's supposed to be all in one spot, which I appreciate. Outside of that, I think the one thing was actually an accessibility update that was submitted by some folks in the community, which was really nice of them to come up with this idea. But for those of you who enjoy fishing, not everyone does, but for those of you who do enjoy fishing, now if you're trying to find that one fish that's eluding you, that one rare fish, and you don't want to lose your bait on it, one of the nice things that's happening right now is, by default, you will now be able to see what fish is popping up to eat your bait. So when you're fishing, you have your lure out and you've got some bait on there and you want to make sure that you're getting the right one. A fish will now come up to the surface, very much like it normally does. But instead of not being able to tell what kind of fish that is, you will now be able to see its name hovering above the actual fish, which is kind of cool. You'll be able to see like, hey, this is an charcoal pondy, or this is a twilight stormfish. You'll be able to tell exactly what fish it is before it takes the bait, and you can make that decision if you want to keep it or not. This is something you can turn off in the accessibility options. I believe it's under HUD. If you're looking for it, and it's just nice to know that they are, aside from the fact that they changed the settings on me, so nothing is exactly where it is. They used to have a set accessibility section. Now it's all under HUD, which I didn't realize until recently when I was like digging around and trying to figure out where the heck the accessibility features went. But under HUD, you should be able to find this option to turn that off if it bugs you, if you want that immersion. Also, I would recommend, if you want, to be able to have a toggle for the HUD. If you don't want to see things, you want to have that immersion, and you don't want to have to see names, but you do like having them on from time to time and don't want to have to cycle that, dedicate a button to being able to turn off the HUD completely. That way, if you want really nice photos, it's super, super simple. All right, so the last 2 things I want to touch on before we get out of here are shop narration. When Let Games Read to Me is enabled, navigating through shops will now also narrate the player's wallet balance to improve ease of purchasing. This is something that I think directly ties to Sightless Combat. Sightless Combat and his efforts on trying to make the game as accessible for those without sight as possible by letting things like Let Games Read to Me be applied to pretty much everything, so that if you want that turned on, you can literally see, or not literally see, actually that's the opposite of what I'm trying to say. You can literally understand what's being told to you through the narration, so you can understand better about like what currency you have, what you want to pick up, things like that. If you want to go and buy something based on what people describe to you or what the game describes to you, and you want to have a certain look, even if you can't see it yourself, you should be able to do that. And I love that they're actually adding this, because in a game where the cosmetics are everything, the gameplay is everything, it's not about what your power level is or anything like that. I think that this is a great way to try and make it easier for people to be able to do this, especially if you can't necessarily look at something, or if you're not 100% sure. This is just one more thing that will be added to the bucket of tools available to people to pull from to make their adventure their own. The other thing that I wanted to touch on was that there is dynamic resolution for the Xbox One X. So folks that are still looking for a Series X or a Series S, or they're happy with their One X, they now have the ability to have dynamic scale resolution in order to maintain a smooth 30 frames per second experience during periods of high activity. This is something that I was dealing with the other day when I was playing on my Xbox One X, and I honestly, I have a 4K TV that it's hooked up to, so I can get 4K 30 frames per second, and it is still pretty nice. And 30 frames is kind of tough, especially when I'm going from 120 frames with the Series X at 1080, which is buttery smooth. I can't tell you how buttery smooth that is, especially given that I don't have a monitor in my computer room where I have the ability to have 120 frames. That's just not, I don't have a monitor that actually does that. All of mine are 60 frames at 1080. So I'm stuck with what I've got, but that's that. I have the nice stuff out in the living room for everyone else. But to go back to the One X, the one thing that I had trouble with is the dips in frame rate. So being able to have dynamic resolution effectively says that it will change the quality of the graphics based on how bad things are in the world as far as activity. If it's a lot of activity and it's really bad, it's going to try and make sure that you can still get that 30 frames per second, because frames do make a difference, especially in PvP. And if you lose out on 30 frames, you're really going to have a tough time. It's tough even fighting against people when you have somewhere between 40 and 60. If it fluctuates or if there's too much tearing and you can't turn around that fast, you really lose out, especially given that people are using DPI switches on their mice. I've got one. I use a Razer, what is this? A Razer Tournament Edition Mamba. And I've got DPI buttons on the top of my mouse that change the sensitivity of the laser depending on if I want it to be slow or fast. And people typically program buttons so that you can press a button and hold it down, and when you hold it down, it lowers the DPI, so it moves a lot slower. And then when you let go, or if you press it down, your DPI goes really high, and you can effectively 180 or 360 very quickly. That is something that is only available for mice, and right now that is apparently something that will get you in trouble. I'm not going to say what will happen. I'm not going to say anything about who's doing it or not, because I don't have all the details on that, and I don't have word from Rare about that. So what I will say is that people are suggesting that you don't mess around with DPI switches on your mice if you're playing Sea of Thieves, because if someone clips it and it can get traced back, you might get in trouble. I'm not saying you will, I'm saying you might. So just kind of a heads up out there for that. I think that's going to do it though. I've tried to keep this as succinct of an episode as I can. I will get back to you next week with more information if we get it, more revelations on stuff that's going on. I really want to know when the Pirate Legend content is coming out, because apparently we're going to be getting a level increase with that. We're going from Athena level 20 to Athena level 30. I have some thoughts on that I'm going to hold on to for next week episode. Hopefully when we find out more about that, because I have a feeling I know why it's going up so quickly, and none of the other reputations are. So I want to kind of touch on that when we get closer and closer to finding out what's going on with that. Hopefully we'll get a little more information and some teases, maybe through some mysteries that are coming out next week. We're still kind of in the very beginning of this new season, so I'm really excited for it. I think this is the most I've played in a shorter amount of time as possible, but a lot of that has changed because of my work schedule. I have a lot more time to play with people at night, so I'm jumping on the seas a lot more. It's been really, really nice to be able to play with other folks nowadays. All right, pirates, that's going to do it for this episode of the Keelhauled podcast. If you guys enjoyed this and want to get more of my content, you can head over to your podcatcher, whatever you're listening to on, and search for the Xbox Wrap Up. It's a Xbox, it's just a gaming podcast in general. I've been talking about the news for the last 10 weeks, just kind of sharing my feelings on what's coming out, trying to keep you guys abreast of the situation when it comes to the games industry, so that I have time to spend like a full hour on Sea of Thieves news here, and I can talk about everything else otherwise, and I don't have to worry about other stuff trying to inject itself into the Keelhauled podcast. So with that, pirates, thank you all for listening. If you want to get a hold of me, there's plenty of ways to do so. You can head over to Twitter on CAPT_LOGUN on Twitter. You can find me there. You can send emails in if you have stories or feelings about the podcast at CAPTLOGUN@gmail.com. You can always head over to the Discord as well, too. We found out that the Apollo Events program works really great for the Sherpa program. So if you're looking to learn how to play Sea of Thieves and want to have some folks kind of tell tell you about all the things that you might want to know about, or just help you get better in general. The Sherpa program over in the Discord's doing that. They will set up events when they have time to set those up. You can sign up if you want. You can be tentative if you want. There's no requirement. There's no fees. There's no worrying about anything. It's a very relaxed environment. I love it. It's a great community, and they are constantly working hard to make sure that everyone has folks to play with and understand everything they can about the game. So we just get better as pirates overall. So thanks to them for working on that. And I think that's gonna do it. I think we covered as much as I think I can. Again, sea forts are great. I think there's some really awesome ideas there. I'd love to hear some feelings on using the beds now that we have multiple beds in all of the ships as well as forts. I'd love to talk about those becoming spawn points for your pirates, so that if you want to have a fort and you want to live in the fort, you can set up the fort as your spawn point for that server, with some ideas about like how that would reset or things like that. So many cool things are coming as a result of these sea forts, and I think the role play opportunities are just now being realized about with that. And I think we're getting even better ideas coming down the line, and I can't wait for season 6 to play out, so we can get into season 8 and season 9 and season 10, where they already have talked about like what's going to be going on with more role playing. I think it's so cool to see, like, if this is where they're coming from, it's going to be great to see where they go. So I'm really excited. This is a great time to be jumping into Sea of Thieves, especially if you don't have a whole lot of time. Now is a perfect opportunity to jump in for a half hour, get into a sea fort. I just did one while we were doing the podcast, so it's not hard, it's easy, and it's rewarding. So get in there, have some fun, enjoy yourself, just experience the new content. With that, pirates, thank you, I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.
In a world where solid-state electronics and vacuum tubes are still meta, people never stop loving atomic-powered everything. A chosen 500 stepped inside a subterranean vault to be spared the nuclear horror of the inevitable Great War. 25 years later, they emerge after the fallout settles to retake Appalachia. Among them, 2 former rivals whose blood feud will tear West Virginia apart in their epic struggle for survival. Chad, a vault bro who has a strength of 15, an intelligence of 2, and is a complete wasteland dickhead. Simon, a complicated anti-hero who chooses light and hope, but accidentally becomes a cannibal, and wakes up naked and afraid with a Scorch Beast queen after a date goes terribly wrong. What? I mean, it's a wild wasteland, right? This dark humor radio drama will have you driving off the road and crawling out from under the fallout. 2 men, 1 wasteland, and so many nukes. Chad, a Fallout 76 podcast, rated R, now streaming on your holotape player podcasty thing.
Hey, I'm Pylon.
And I'm Doc.
And if you've ever played an Elder Scrolls game, you've probably used UESP.net to help you find information about a quest, dive deeper into lore, or really learn anything about the Elder Scrolls.
But did you know we have a podcast too? Every week we bring you the latest in Elder Scrolls news, dig deeper into topics surrounding the game, and have a ton of fun while doing it.
You can find us on your favorite podcatcher by searching the unofficial Elder Scrolls podcast. Can't wait to see you all there.